Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is for a love match between Sagittarians and Capricorns. And I have to say, in my personal life, I don't know if I know any combinations thereof. So I like to observe people of two different signs and see how they interact and what their dynamic is. And I don't know if I've ever met a couple where one was a Sag and one was a Capricorn. Um, both of these signs are winter signs. The last four signs of the zodiac, one for each of the elements, are winter signs. And these represent the wise versions of each element. So we have the last fire sign in Sagittarius and the last earth sign in Capricorn. And this is supposed to be, that they've gathered this wisdom from what the element represents, and they are kind of like the more mature versions, I guess you would call it. And so and you could also say too, Sagittarius and Capricorn are adjacent signs. So they are also next, they're next to each other. So what they have in common is that they can both be wise and take life seriously. Now, obviously, Capricorn as a sun sign is going to be more overtly serious than Sagittarius, being a fire sign. But since I'm a Sagittarian, I can say that Sagittarians do take life seriously. We tend to be very philosophical. So there's always looking at life as something that is a living, breathing thing, not just this thing that we have found ourselves in that we're just going through the motions. That's not typically how a Sagittarian person thinks. And with Capricorn, I can't speak for a Capricorn, but I think that I noticed that there were a lot of famous gurus, Indian gurus, that were born on the sign of Capricorn, and I thought that was strange. Same with all of the earth signs, but I noticed some really famous ones were Capricorns because, it's an earth sign. You wouldn't expect them to be interested in transcending the earth. But a lot of times, it's really not like that. They're trying to explain our relationship to the material world. And a Capricorn person, my experiences with Capricorn individuals is that they are very respectful of material nature. They're not wasteful. They're very conservative, but not just what we would say like politically. They like to save things rather than waste them. And so this can make them and they're also very disciplined. So that's very appealing for the spiritual life. Capricorns can really resonate with the idea of not being self-indulgent. And so that might be appealing to them to live a life that is very disciplined with a lot of rules because Capricorn rules the 10th house of career, which can be authority figures. And it's all, Saturn, Capricorn's ruler, is about structure. So that probably is why they like religion or the religious life, because they can feel comfortable in that framework. Sagittarius can help lighten up Capricorn because Capricorns can be quite serious and Sagittarius tend to be more freewheeling and lighthearted. Fire signs are enthusiastic. They have like the inner kid fully activated, ready to go at all times. And that can rub off on Capricorn. Now, it's important to note, I wanted to say earlier that Sag and Capricorn being adjacent signs may mean that each one, I'm talking about sun signs here, each one can have inner planets in the other sign. So a Sag might have Venus in Capricorn or Mars in Capricorn. I have Mars in Capricorn. A Capricorn can have Venus in Sag and or Mercury in Sag, and they have these sides to them that are very much like the other person, and they have an affinity that way too. Sag can also help Capricorn become more optimistic. There is a very kind of dour, um, you know, demeanor sometimes with Capricorn, with that Saturn influence. As a matter of fact, there's an adjective Saturnian, which is kind of like a overly serious, somber kind of demeanor, and so Sag can help Capricorn see the bright side of things, not always be stuck in the worst case scenario. And it's not that Capricorn is just negative for the sake of being negative. It's really trying to be as conservative as possible and not and factor in anything that might go wrong, that kind of thing. So a Capricorn would say they're just being realistic about life. But sometimes, it's seeing the glass half empty, really. When you look at it more closely. And Sag can help Capricorn see the bigger picture, because that's kind of what the expansive quality of Sag's ruler Jupiter does. And what that can do, especially on the spiritual level, is take any of these mundane things that Capricorn gets so hung up on and really takes it out and says, is it really important in the bigger picture? Like, let's say Capricorn loses their job. That would be like a nightmare for a Capricorn, to get fired, laid off, whatever you want to call it, because work is very important to Capricorn. And Sag can say, the universe is opening you up for something better. The Capricorn person may be thinking, oh, how much money do I have? Is this going to look bad on my resume? Those are the kind of things that Capricorn thinks about when these kinds of things happen, and Sag can be more philosophical about it. Sag may attract material abundance, and that's not going to hurt in Capricorn's eyes. And it's not that Capricorn is materialistic in that classic sense, more that we would associate with Taurus, for instance. It's just that Capricorn is always striving to raise themselves in society, and that includes on the material level. So being in the bigger earning bracket, maybe being able to afford to live in a nicer area. A Capricorn person typically will not waste money on just things that are very disposable, and maybe they won't even go out to dinner that much because they think it's a waste of money, it's too expensive. But they might spend it on a higher rent in a more exclusive area, or a more expensive house that happens to be in a more desirable area, because these are symbols of their success, or it's even more than just success. It's like their entrance into the higher society, because the 10th house is the social pecking order as well. So if a Capricorn person is, born lower middle class, they may aspire to be upper middle class, not just middle class. And, they're very conscious of those designations. And Sag may be able to earn enough money or attract money in some way that allows Capricorn to indulge in that if they're not able to provide it for themselves by themselves. Capricorns can help Sag with structure because Sagittarius is a mutable sign. It tends to just, fire signs tend to be very impatient, and so they, impulsive, just doing things on the spur of the moment and not really laying down structure, just kind of haphazard and not as methodical as a Capricorn. And Capricorns can show Sagittarius how, if they have certain disciplines, certain routines, how that can enhance their life in the long run. And this can also include finances. And Sag tends to be a spendthrift, and I mean, this depends if the Sagittarian has Venus in Capricorn, they may be much more conservative with money, actually. Just, Capricorn can just be like a very practical influence, and that helps Sag to navigate life, to get advice from, somebody about certain things that Sag typically wouldn't even be interested in. Now, let's talk about how this can create some friction that can actually lead to not being able to see eye to eye. Just on the surface, I would say these two signs are very different in many different ways. And I don't know, like, just as sun signs, if they would really make it. I know my partner has probably more than one friend of his that is a Capricorn, and they get along very well. But friendships are different than love matches, so that's the thing. There's a little bit more invested here. So, because Sag may be free spending with money, this can really bother a Capricorn. And they do say that money causes a lot of, I think they said it's the number one cause of fights. And, maybe that's true. I'm not sure. I don't believe everything I hear, but it seems like that is problematic, especially when you have two signs that couldn't be more different. Capricorn is an earth sign, and earth signs are wired to be naturally good at managing money. But the thing is, with Sag, there's I think with all fire signs, there's this desire for instant gratification. So spending money is so not appealing. I mean, not spending money, saving money is not appealing to Sagittarians, because if they get money into their hands, they might be thinking, okay, how can I spend this money? That might be the first thing on their mind. And that can drive a Capricorn person bonkers, because Capricorn not only is very into conserving things, Capricorn being ruled by Saturn, and Saturn being Father Time, really feels that with that everything good comes eventually, that you can't just have a quick fix. And certainly you hear about people who they work diligently. Maybe they go to work at a government job, and Capricorn can be those kinds of structures, like a government kind of a position, and they just, punch that clock 30 years, what have you, maybe longer than that, and they get their pension, and they have everything all set up. And they have been very diligent, and they do get to enjoy their retirement. Obviously, some people don't, because by the time they retire, they're physically incapable of doing some of the things that they had wanted to do. So it can work either way. But there are some people, maybe they retire early. Maybe if they work certain types of jobs where they get pensions, they can be, retired very early. I've read things online like that. It's like, wow, they retired very young, and then they get to enjoy all of those things because they were very disciplined in their spending, and they were very mindful of what, came in and what went out. And they had, the long term in mind. They weren't just being, they weren't just indulging themselves in the moment. And there's a lot to be said for that. But there can be clashes between these two ways of dealing with material resources. I put here Sag may shirk responsibility to have more freedom. Again, I'm a sun in Sagittarius, so I'm not picking on Sages. I just know that Sagittarians, that's very important to them to have freedom. Now, if a Capricorn person really wants respect from others, they want that status in society, and that's really, I think, to garner respect, to be seen as a person who is successful or an expert in their field or what have you. That requires a lot of either like studying to gain that knowledge so that that person can be the go-to person, the expert, the success, hard work, whatever it is, diligence. And Capricorn is not afraid of hard work. Sagittarius might be, unless they have inner planets like Mars and Capricorn. I have Mars and Capricorn, but I just think freedom is so important. But that can be a major bone of contention, because the Capricorn person, it's almost like they can develop a parent-child relationship. And I've said this before with all of the fire signs. And I mentioned that Aries tends to be a strong influence or attraction for Capricorn. And the same thing can apply to some of these things, can be pretty much the same with Aries. I will be doing a separate one, but I'm just saying. And you don't want that type of relationship. You want a relationship of equals. Capricorn may be too cynical and pessimistic, and that can, drag down Sag. Sag can feel like, this person is such a Debbie Downer, And Sag really wants to be surrounded by optimistic people, people who believe that they can do what they set out to do, that there's not so many obstacles that they can't do certain things. Capricorn may be too much of a workaholic, and so let's say the two of them have a family, and the Capricorn misses the children's events because they're at work, and even if they have a successful career, it's like the family life is suffering because the Capricorn person needs to be that success at the expense of their own family. Capricorn may be too stingy, and this is what I was talking about before. You can say Sag is too much of a spendthrift, but maybe Capricorn is too stingy, and that creates a clash in terms of values. You know, Sag is known for being generous. And this may also be not just with material resources. Maybe Capricorn is too stingy with I love you or compliments. So the Capricorn person may find it hard to express themselves about, their affection. Capricorn can be a cold sign. And of course, they might have the moon in Leo or another fire sign and be more affectionate and things like that. But in general, it is a cold sign and it can leave the other person in the cold. Capricorn may be too materialistic and status conscious. Now, again, I don't think Capricorns in general are just, just wanting to buy things just to kind of fill the void necessarily. I think it's more, again, wanting to seem like they are a success. So those status symbols like a car, an expensive car, that, you know how much that car costs. And so you know that that person makes a nice living. Or those clothes that are very, that have a nice flow to them, that are very tasteful. They will tend to be more understated, not flashy, trashy clothing, but very classic designs that don't go out of style. Because it isn't about a fad. It's about durability, professionalism. A Capricorn person may dress very formally even on their off hours. Like they don't just wear sweats and t-shirts. Now, obviously, I'm broad brushing and that may not be true. I'm sure Capricorns wear sweats, but they may find themselves wearing a lot more dressy clothing, even casually, than other people that they're dealing with, because that's just how they are. They're more formal, but it can also be that status consciousness, wanting to always seem like they are a cut above. And to Sag, that might be seen as too materialistic in terms of being too much of that outer image, using these kinds of things. And even just, and when I say too materialistic, not spiritual enough, not thinking about the true meaning of life, but thinking about these things that are not really the true self, trying to maintain that image that really isn't the true self. And that could be some of their clash, with their life philosophies. So that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, the link is below. Thanks for listening. Take care. Bye.